And welcome to tonight's edition of Today at the 500, brought to you by the Majors Series. Welcome, it's race week at the 2020 Open Wheels 500-mile race presented by Mitchell Transmission. It was a practice day today at the Speedway. A lightly attended practice. Only 4 drivers thus far have set times in practice. The fastest of the day was Hugo Olsen, just over 40.3 seconds. So not much going on in terms of practice today. A lot of drivers and teams either opting to take the first practice day of the week off or go on and run some of the Open Series races here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway this week. That's the iRacing official road series that will be putting on races this coming week, and that'll give teams a chance to prepare in race conditions before we head off into the actual race weekend here at the Open Wheels 500. Well, while we're joining you, we're going to give you a little bit of a rundown of today's show. A lot of coverage of qualifications as we wrap up qualifications weekend, and what a weekend it was. Amazing 2 days of qualifying, nearly 125 total qualifications attempts across those 2 days. And it really set the stage for what's going to be an awesome race week leading into Sunday's second annual Open Wheels 500. What we're going to do right here on screen is give you actually some recorded coverage of qualifications from Sunday. It's the final hour session from Bump Day on Sunday. So as soon as we get going with those cars on track, we'll show you the runs as they happened and maybe even talk you through them just a little bit. Tonight, joining us on the show this evening will be Arjuna Kankipati. He was the commentator on RaceSpot TV's coverage of the Open Wheels 500 qualifications this week. You see Chris Stofer heading out for his qualifications attempt. At this time of the day, Chris Stofer did not have any attempts remaining after this. It was all or nothing, and the Powerslide Motorsports driver was really fighting hard to ensure that he remained in the race for 2020. He made the race last year, but throughout the week, this week, we learned that Chris was having some hardware issues, particularly with his steering components, and that left him with not only an unpredictable handling car via some steering wheel issues, but he wasn't quite sure of their car as a team and what he could really do with a fair shake. So through 2 qualifying attempts, Chris Stofer was out of the field. This was his final attempt, and it was all or nothing for him. We'll talk to Chris Stofer just a little bit later. He'll be joining us in our third segment at about 8:35 p.m. Eastern Time. But you see Chris out there on the track right now. A beautiful chrome livery from Powerslide Motorsports. And this was one of the stories of the day. Who could go out there and bump their way into the field? We were light on action really from the outset of Bump Day compared to last year. We had a ton of activity, and we were on pace with day 1 pole day qualifications activity rate. But on day 2, we started slow, ended up finishing strong. But as the day went on, we weren't sure how many qualifiers were really left in the fray that could go ahead and bump any of the existing drivers out of the race. Well, one of those drivers on our short list of possibilities was Chris Stofer. He busted off a 38.926 second lap on this first lap right here. And at the time, Randy Cheneth was the driver sitting on the bubble. Randy had been on the bubble essentially all day long. Nearly 6 hours, 6 to 7 hours he'd been on the bubble to this point when Stofer went out, and this was a do-or-die attempt right here. All or nothing again, like we said. One of the things that makes the Open Wheels 500 so special and so unique compared to the other 500s here on iRacing You only get 3 attempts for the entire weekend. Single car qualifications, and it really puts drivers under the microscope. Right there, a 38.898 for Stofer, so he was starting to work himself into the mix right here. The big deal was lap 3 for Stofer through his first runs. Laps 3 and 4 where things began to unravel in his previous attempts. He was very under control, calm and cool as he completed the 3rd lap. A little wiggle off the 4th turn right there, but he ends up bringing it home with a 39.019 on his 3rd lap. And that brought us right here to the 4th lap, the money lap. Get your car under that white line in turn 2. Smooth transition out of the corner. And now down the backstretch, only 2 corners to make it to put yourself in the Open Wheels 500. And I know in iRacing Indy 500 attempts, even though you have unlimited runs, if you get to the 4th lap, a little wiggle right there coming out of turn 3, the 4th lap, no matter how easy your run was to that point, always anxious. And after Stofer brought it off the corner safely right there, the last lap would be a 39.113 and a 4-lap average speed of 230.834 miles an hour. It ended up being the 2nd fastest bump day run behind only Austin Espity, and that safely put Chris Stofer in the field. So we're going to take a moment, take a quick break, and get back on schedule. When we come back, we'll continue to review qualifications, give you the starting lineup on the left-hand side of the screen, and we'll join Arjuna Kankipati at 8:22 p.m. Eastern, just about 11 minutes from now. You're watching Today at the 500 live at the Open Wheels 500-mile race. Coverage of the 2020 Open Wheels 500 is brought to you by the Majors Series, presenting partner of Open Wheels 500 broadcast. Mitchell Transmissions, presenting sponsor of the Open Wheels 500. Pit Lane Parlay Podcast. Listen to Pit Lane Parlay today on all major podcast platforms. And the Majors Garage, the official setup shop of the Open Wheels 500. And welcome back to Today at the 500 live here at the Open Wheels 500-mile race. You're watching some replay coverage from the final hour of Bump Day qualifications this past Sunday. John Downing out on track, and John, unfortunately, throughout this run, just never quite got in the mix. Did not have the speed. This was his first run in the final hour, a 39.020 on the first lap. And followed that up with a 38.970 on the second lap. So through at that point, John was on a decent track. Here on the third lap, it was really going to be big that he kept it around that 39.01 or 02 mark. And that would really let us know if he'd have a chance on lap 4. While John's out on track, we're going to bring you the starting lineup onto your screen now. It kind of tells the future a little bit of what we're watching right here, but you can see our field of 33, and we'll go through that at some point a little bit later. John Downing finishing this run right here at 39.025. So at this point, it appeared that Downing was in play and could potentially make a run at it, but dreadfully off the apex there in turn 1. He got down in turn 2, but lost a lot of time there in turn 1, perhaps even a full 10th, as he was 2 or 3 feet off the white line, and typically you want to be under that white line. In turn 3, not a bad corner for John there, but not sure how much turn 1 hurt him, and really lost a lot of time down the backstretch. And as he came off turn 4 there, a little wiggle, a little loose, and he ended up with a 39.220, and it just wasn't enough. So that was John Downing's second run of the weekend. He would leave the track right there and have one more run remaining in his back pocket. Action was happening fast and furious throughout the final hour of Bump Day qualifications. In race control, we were trying to move through the action as quickly as possible and get as many drivers out on track as we could. At this point, we had Chris Stofer join and kick things off, and then Joshua Affine was out to make his final run when he had a mechanical issue that put him in the wall going down the front stretch, so he quickly departed. And then John Downing was the driver that just went out on track and made his penultimate run right there. Fabio Viana, the next driver out, he would give it a crack and had a couple attempts left in his back pocket. And he would not find his way into the field of 33. So we'll take this moment. We'll still show Fabio on the screen, and he's already said actually in today's practice broadcast that he would love to be back for the 2021 Open Wheels 500. So we look forward to having Fabio and his crew for Blackstripe Motorsports back in 2021. So you look at our starting lineup over there. Michele Costantini, our defending champion of the Open Wheels 500. He is our pole sitter in 2020, joined by Wilson Neto. Neto was also in the middle of the front row back in 2019. He's done it again, second fastest in qualifying. And then Christopher Demerit, third fastest. He rounds out our front row. And while we got a chance, I think we're going to go ahead and see if we can bring in Arjuna Kankipati a little bit early on this broadcast. Arjuna did a fantastic job over the weekend commanding both of our final hour coverage broadcasts of both pole day and bump day qualifications on RaceSpot TV. Arjuna also the host of the Talking Tenths podcast, which thankfully I will appear on tomorrow morning. Looking forward to that, certainly, and we'll talk more Open Wheels 500 as we start to transition towards race week. We'll share that on our social media platforms, get everybody aware of the media coverage concerning this week's Open Wheels 500. And as Fabio makes his way around the track, let's go ahead and bring in Arjuna Kankipati right now, move him into the studio, and bringing you in a little early, my friend, but joining us on the program, Arjuna Kankipati, producer, commentator, extraordinaire for RaceSpot TV. Welcome back to Today at the 500, my friend, and what a weekend it was in qualifications.
Yeah, what a weekend it was. Lots of interesting stories, and, you know, the drama in that last hour on Sunday was just amazing. You know, we had people in our YouTube chat talking about wanting this format, Tanner, in the official Indy 500, and, you know, watching John Downing as he made 2 runs in those final hours, Stofer as well, my teammate, you're going to be speaking to later, as he's, you know, with his brand new wheel, locked himself into the field. It was great, and just shows why this qualifying and this entire field is so strong this year. It was just so special to really be a part of.
Arjuna, like you said, it was really fast and furious in that last hour, particularly on bump day. And throughout the day, you know, a lot of us were sitting around and the action wasn't as thorough and I would say jam-packed as it was on bump day last year. In the end, it certainly made up for it, but during the daytime we were sitting there and we were thinking, who could come along and make an impact on this field that is still left? We knew Randy Cheneth had been on the bubble for 6 or 7 hours, and we were looking around at the cast of suspects that could potentially shake things up. And the short list was like the word says, short. But really, in all honesty, all it took was one individual bumping somebody out of that top 33, because everybody else that was previously in the 33 had attempts remaining. So once one domino fell, we really saw everything start to unravel before our eyes in that final hour.
Yeah, definitely. And it was those 2 Sadie drivers, really, David Adams and John Downing. Those were, you know, I think 2 of the main drivers that people were looking at, thinking about potentially bumping some of the drivers from the field. But another interesting thing that we saw in that final hour, though, Tanner, was Young O going out for another qualifying run. The car didn't look great all weekend, and, you know, that last do-or-die run was an interesting call there. Didn't really move him up the order. He's still going to start back in 30th place, but at least he's in the field, but, you know, at the wrong end of the field from where he's used to starting these races.
Yeah, we talked to Young O just after the end of qualifications on Sunday, and he said, you know, last year was exciting for me because it was, like many others, my first year at the Open Wheels 500, and he felt those butterflies that we talked about earlier in this week before he went out and put down a pole run last year. This year, at the end of the day on Sunday, we were talking to him, and he had been fighting for his life all weekend, and he felt the same excitement and intensity, and for that, he actually enjoyed it and cherished that, because for him, a very accomplished sim racer, he's not usually on that end of the spectrum. So that's just like the Indy 500 in real life. You know, we saw it with Team Penske in the early 90s. They had the amazing beast Mercedes engine one year, and then the next year they completely missed the show. And we try to bring all the 500 particulars into this event as we possibly can, but the way that played out on Sunday was truly remarkable.
And it was interesting seeing how some teams made big improvements over the last few months as well. There were you had the few Brazilian drivers who made a marked improvement in their qualifying pace, but also the likes of, you know, i5G, Team Talent, Powerslide, the usual names getting into the field. Interesting to see Team Talent with 10 drivers in this field, and when I was talking to Andrew Wood right after qualifying, well, I asked him what his expectations for the race was, and the first thing out of his mouth was a race win for one of us. So a lot of confidence there, and I'm excited for this Sunday, Tanner. There's more action to get to. We got Friday and Saturday coverage as well on RaceSpot TV, but this 500 miles is going to be great, and hopefully it stays green for as much as the race as it did last year. Just 2 cautions, and hopefully we can get as many of these 500 miles done under green conditions as we can possibly do.
Yeah, and interestingly enough, the man that's being shown on screen right now as we kind of roll through a live stream of that final hour of qualifications is last year's voice of the 500. It was Randy Chenin. So Randy was one of those drivers at this point in the day. He had gone back out after just being bumped out of the field at 33 when Chris Stofer found his way in. This was Randy's final attempt, and in the end, he ended up putting himself right back where he started in 34th. So Randy would be the first alternate on Sunday if anybody is unable to make the race, but really close, but just not quite enough for your commentator mate at RaceSpot TV.
Yeah, and I know he's feeling a little bit bummed. He put a lot of effort into this. You know, hasn't done much racing recently, so he put all of his attention towards this, tried to qualify, but he will be the first alternate. And, you know, if you look back at last year, Andrew Wood qualified in 34th, ended up starting in 33rd. So anything can happen, and I'm sure Randy's still going to be practicing this week as he hopes to potentially make the field still.
Right now, talking to Arjuna Kankipati with RaceSpot TV. Let's take a look at the top of the leaderboard. We've got it up on our screen right now, and the man at the top is the man that was there when we finished the 500 miles last November 17th. Michele Costantini, to see the growth that he has really had since last year's Open Wheels 500 and that victory, he was very competitive at the iRacing Indy 500 this past May, and now he's followed it up with the Pole Award and perhaps the most challenging of Indy 500 qualifying conditions on iRacing here at the Open Wheels 500. What kind of I mean, how can we describe him at this point now? He seems to be the leading candidate in all these 500s and is really starting to make a name for himself at Indianapolis, among other forms of racing that he's competing in.
Absolutely. And I mean, you know, what can you say other than an amazing qualifying run? And, you know, he described it as not being the perfect run, but when I talked to him, I think it was on Saturday, he said that the best that setup could do was about 100th faster. So, you know, to put yourself in those pressure-filled conditions with limited runs and, you know, these tough conditions out on track as well. Great qualifying run. And now all the pressure looking on Sunday is about how can he back up that race win last year. It's obviously going to be in the best position to start, but, you know, these first few laps on fresh tires especially are going to be crazy until it starts to separate out a little bit. So for Costantini, gotta just make sure he keeps his nose clean in the first few laps of the race, and from there work his strategy and see where it goes. From
qualifications week and all the practices that we had last week, the track temperature hovered around 118, 119 degrees Fahrenheit. In today's practice, which is more closely associated with the temperatures and the time of day that we'll see for the race itself. Actually, our time box was set at 1:30, which would be in the final half of the race on Sunday. We saw track temperature reach 134 degrees Fahrenheit this afternoon. That's going to be something exciting to watch, and I think it's one thing that helped space out our field and really create a clean racing atmosphere last year. Before I talk about that, I'd like to move on. The driver on our screen right now is a guy that we mentioned at the outset of this interview. Young O, going out at this point in the day, he didn't really need to go out, but with the ever-changing conditions, you mentioned the Sadie Sim Autosport drivers with runs in their back pocket, he didn't want to leave anything to chance. So I ask you now, Arjuna, what run was more clutch over the weekend? Could it have been Matt Pavelski and his Saturday afternoon run on his final attempt on the first day of qualifications? He had burned every run he had. Or was it between Chris Stofer and Young O in the final hour on Sunday? They were all remarkably clutch. for a variety of reasons.
Well, if I'm going to rank them, because I think that's the easiest way to answer this question, because they're all exceptionally clutch. Let's start with Stofer then in that first position, because obviously having technical issues coming in with, you know, some hardware failures on his steering wheel, got a new wheel the morning of bump day qualifying, had to get it set up, had to get used to it, so didn't also have much practice the week before, so, you know, to go out there on that final run and put in that attempt that's going to make him start in 29th, that's pretty clutch. Then you've got Pavelski, who put himself in that situation, trying to go for his own glory run. His initial run was good enough to make him into the field, Tanner. So, I mean, that one was a bit of a strange decision. To wreck it coming out of turn 4 on lap 4, and then to have to go back out there for run number 3 on Saturday. Pavelski did a great job, so that would probably be second. But Fiongo, I think that one might be something where I think he was safe. I don't think there was any reason for him to go out, but maybe he just thought there was a little bit more in that car. And I think at the end of the day, he would still have started higher if he didn't go out, if I'm remembering correctly, right? Because runs set on Saturday are, they're going to start in front of the guys who start on Sunday, set the times on Sunday rather. So I'm not sure why he went out, but therefore that clutch level to come in and set that time still very important.
In the end, he didn't move up any spots on the grid. First, he had one run on Saturday, but he did wreck, and we didn't see him again make a qualifications attempt on Saturday. He did practice a good amount following that, but at the end of the day on Saturday, he actually didn't have a time associated with his entry. He did come back out on Sunday morning and put in a time that he stood on for most of the day. In the end, when he went back out, it did save him what would have been one position because Logan Simmons was a bit faster than him. But again, you weigh one position against the risk of crashing on your final attempt, and he would have been out of the show. So certainly pressure-packed for all of them. I'm very excited to talk to Chris Stofer in just a few moments here about the wild week that he had and the difficulties with his hardware. I mean, that's like going to an unknown backup car on the day of bump day qualifications that you haven't turned a lap in. I mean, it's very difficult to change hardware here in these sim racing conditions because you get so used to muscle memory. An admirable job by Chris Stofer. Okay, Arjuna, I want to close out our interview. What are the storylines? What are the things that you're looking forward to most? Give us a little preview as we get closer to the weekend. We'll have you on if you will join us on our pre-race show on Sunday morning, but a little teaser, I guess, for those that are looking ahead to the weekend itself.
Well, we mentioned one of those key things, the weather and how the track is going to heat up as the race goes on and how the cars and how the drivers are going to adapt and what they choose to do in pit lane as well. Not just in terms of adjusting the cars, but in terms of strategy. Fuel was a big deal at the end of last year's race, expecting it to be the same here. In terms of other storylines, though, I think it's interesting now to see. Andrew Wood, very confident. Can the Team Talent guys get it done? They have 10 drivers in the field, so that's almost a third of the entire field here, Tanner. What can they do, and is this going to be the year they took home the Open Wheels 500 win?
Awesome. Well, that's Arjuna Kankipati. Arjuna, again, thanks so much for the awesome coverage throughout Bump Day and Pole Day qualifications. We also have the Veterans 100 qualifications this Friday at 8 p.m. Eastern Time to look forward to, plus day before the 500 coverage on Saturday beginning at 2 p.m. Eastern, and that all builds into the race on Sunday. Coverage starting at 11:30 a.m. Eastern. Is that correct?
Yes, that should be correct. I'll confirm that with you later tonight. But also, you'll be on the podcast tomorrow, Talking 10, so that should be fun. So we get to preview the race for a slightly different audience as well.
Awesome. Well, that's Arjuna Kankipati, everybody, commentator and producer for RaceSpot TV. Thanks again, sir, for joining us and all the wonderful things that you've done to help really take this event forward in year 2. And look forward to this race week that's ahead of us.
Absolutely. Have a good one, Tanner.
All right. Thank you, sir. Again, that's Arjuna, everybody. Excellent man and does a great job for RaceSpot TV and does a little work for Powerslide Motorsports, too. And we're going to talk to his teammate now, bringing Chris Stofer into the broadcast booth, driver the number 13 machine for Powerslide Motorsports. Chris, what a week it was leading into qualifications weekend, and it all culminated with really an exciting day at the end of the day on Sunday. First and foremost, welcome to the program, and congratulations on making it back into the Open Wheels 500 in 2020.
Well, thanks for having me. And yeah, I didn't think I was going to make it for a multitude of reasons, but everything seemed to play out just in my favor. And you know, I feel pretty rusty. Doesn't help that I got new equipment here I'm trying to get used to this week, but I'm going to do a lot of practice and try to get as comfortable as possible.
Chris, I've been fascinated to hear kind of the timeline and how things played out over the last week or so. When did you first start experiencing some issues with your hardware, and then what was kind of the Saturday and Sunday timeline? You know, you put in I think a run on Saturday and then another 2 runs on Sunday that eventually the last one got you in, but just how did that unfold for those that don't really know what happened behind the scenes?
Well, I started experiencing some electrical gremlins in my wheel probably about a month ago, and it just seemed to be getting worse and worse as it progressed. I had a league race here and there, and I really wasn't doing anything other than running those league races just because I kind of felt I needed to do that for points or whatever the reason may be. And so it was more of a, wasn't really fun at that point to race. It was more of a chore, to be honest, just with the way the wheel was. I'll explain it here. It was about center on my wheel was about 10 degrees to the right. And so there was a big dead zone right there that it was riding on. And so if you wanted to turn left, you had to go through that dead zone to get to where it picked up the wheel again. And then you're turning left. And if you're turning right, it would just, you're already 10 degrees to the right. So you barely had to put any input in. So it wasn't very fun at all, especially on a road course oval. I could deal with it. I could adjust things in iRacing to make it manageable. But going in to that week, I already ordered a new wheel, I think Monday or Tuesday, going into qualifying. So it wasn't supposed to come till Monday. And so I was like, well, I guess I got to make the best of what I've got here. And did a lot of practice with that, with my old wheel on Friday and Saturday, and got to a point where I was like, okay, I can get around the track, and you know, I'm not going to make a fool of myself, so let's go out here. I tried to put down a time on Saturday, and I was in for a little bit, but I got bumped out, which I kind of felt it was going to happen. Then on Sunday again, my wheel, all of a sudden I was checking FedEx, and it said it was supposed to arrive on Sunday, and I had no idea FedEx even delivered on Sunday, to be honest with you. So I was a little skeptical still, even though, you know, their website was telling me it was going to be here on Sunday. So I just continued practicing, went out there, did another time on Sunday, or put out another attempt on Sunday, and I was actually slower than I was on Saturday. So I was like, well, that's no fun. So I got up and had some errands and some things I needed to do around the house, because that was my only day off last week, was Sunday, and went out, got those things done, came back, and what do you know, sitting on the doorstep was my new wheel. So came in, got that all hooked up, got it to the point where I was comfortable, and luckily in qualifying, you know, you don't need to use the brakes, you just basically holding the foot to the floor and you know, turning through the turn. So I was able to get comfortable enough to get out there, and I mean, the proof's right there, and the equipment from day 1 to day 2, I was able to put down a real good run the second day.
Talking right now to Chris Stofer, driver of the number 13 machine for Powerslide Motorsports. And before I had you on here, when I was actually talking to Arjuna, I mentioned, you know, for us as sim racers, we get really in tune with our equipment, and I'm not sure what kind of wheel you went from to what you went to, but regardless, it's very muscle memory sensitive to race and sim racing, and particularly to execute these qualifications attempts here at Indianapolis. How big of a challenge was that, kind of just telling yourself and your eyes and your hands to adjust to a new steering mechanism, and really you had zero margin for error because you were down to your last run.
Yeah. Well, I use the lockless riff, so I don't have the visual of looking at the wheel, which I'm still reaching for buttons that aren't there on this wheel. Honest with you, but I put the buttons I needed in places that were familiar, or at least in the same vicinity as my old wheel, and just when I got out there on track, I did a ton of practice before I even came in and did that final attempt. And so really I was just kind of blocking everything out and just focusing on what I needed to do, which was hit my marks. And I was able to accomplish that. I'm still not 100% confident with my new equipment, to be quite honest. And so that's, it's affected me quite a bit. I've done a couple official races and done some practices here and there. And, I feel like I'm making some bonehead moves, and I know a lot of it's because I'm thinking about, what am I doing? And, am I pressing the right button on the wheel at the right time, or if I need to adjust something, and, kind of thinking, oh, I've got to find that with my thumb while I'm in the Oculus. And so, I just need to get as comfortable as I can with it. So I'll be ready for the race.
Talking right now to Chris Stofer. And so, Chris, you really ran it right down through the entirety of qualifications weekend. Just talk to us, what does it mean to be a part of this event, and particularly in this sense, qualifications weekend, and how unique it is to the Open Wheels 500?
There's certainly things I love about it. The 3 attempts, I love that a lot, because you can't just go out there and keep putting down times until you get the best one and just sit on that. So, there's a lot of risk to be taken if you go out there and try to improve your time on day one. And even coming down to that last run that I had, I was nervous. I won't lie, I was very nervous, but I took it all out and just do what I knew how to do, which was, drive the car, and I was able to do that. I know I'm not one of the best guys out here by far, and I feel like that there's certain times where I don't even belong, but I was able to make it, and it's a very prestigious event. I mean, you have a 33 or 32 aliens, not counting myself, in this field. So, starting in the back isn't necessarily where you'd want to be. It's going to be difficult for sure, but I can't say enough about the guys that are in here, and there's a lot that goes into qualifying. I know our team was working on the setup on and off, and then when Open Wheels was announced, they really ramped it up. So I can't say enough about those guys putting in all the time and the effort that they do, and it's paid off. We've got 5 cars in the field now, and hopefully we'll get one in victory lane.
Talking right now to Chris Stofer, and I will mention you are one of 22 drivers that'll be making a second start in the Open Wheels 500, so you are doing something right, but definitely excited to have you back in the field. You mentioned starting towards the back third of the field. What's really going to be the game plan? How do you make sure that you can at least give yourself a chance to move forward on Sunday?
Well, there's something to be said about starting in the back versus starting in the front. I think it might be a mental thing. I don't know, but I feel like when you're starting in the back, you have more options. Every option is available to you. Early caution comes out, stay out, you could pit. You don't really lose anything by pitting and trying to have fresh tires and the most fuel. And you never know if caution might come out and play your way that on race day. So, I feel like there's a lot more open to me, where if you're starting up front, you kind of have to do what the leaders are doing so you can stay with them. So normally in official races and in some leagues, I do better when I start in the back, because I can pass people and I can get a real good feel for the car, and there's not as much pressure as in starting up front and trying to stay up front as I guess when you start in the back and you make it up to top 5 or so, you feel like you've accomplished something and feel pretty good about yourself at that point. And I guess you just kind of get in a rhythm passing people if you do start towards the back. I mean, hopefully that'll be the case on Sunday. Who knows? Again, with this field, my first goal is to finish the race, of course. And I think if I just if I'm smart and keep myself out of trouble, that I'll finish well. And if I'm up towards the front at the end, then I'll have a go at it. But yeah, it'll be interesting for sure.
All right, folks, that's Chris Stofer driving the number 13 machine for Powerslide Motorsports. He was second fastest on bump day, and that means he'll start 29th in the 10th row. Again, looking forward to seeing how you do this weekend, man. It was really a exciting run to the finish on Sunday. You brought a lot of excitement to the bump day broadcast, and we're happy to have you back in the Open Wheels 500.
I appreciate it. Appreciate everything you do here. This is a great event that you're putting on. A lot of talk throughout the community, and it brings the community together too, which is always good. So I'm glad I could put on a show for you guys on Sunday. In a good way and not in a bad way. So I waited till after my run to lose the car, but I appreciate it. I can't say enough. Thank you.
Awesome. Well, that's Chris Stofer, everybody. He did a great job this past weekend, and we look forward to seeing him race on Sunday in the second Open Wheels 500-mile race. Well, we're going to take a quick break. We'll be back in just a few moments. We'll wrap up tonight's show. You're watching the final qualifications attempt that we had back on Sunday. It was Fabio Viana. He ended up putting in a run that just missed the field, and then that was it. We sounded the gun just about at this point. It was during his warm-up lap or just at the start of his first timed lap, which would have begun right now. That was the final 5:50 p.m. gun, and effectively the field of 33 was set by that time. So we'll be back in just a few moments. We'll wrap up qualifications weekend and start to look ahead to the race. You're watching Today at the 500 live on Open Wheels TV. Coverage of the 2020 Open Wheels 500 is brought to you by the Majors Series, presenting partner of Open Wheels 500 broadcast. Mitchell Transmissions, presenting sponsor of the Open Wheels 500. Pit Lane Parlay Podcast. Listen to Pit Lane Parlay today on all major podcast platforms. And the Majors Garage, the official setup shop of the Open Wheels 500. And welcome back to the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. It's Tuesday practice at the Open Wheels 500, coming to a close at the top of the hour. We only had a handful of participants through practice today, so we've been showing you some action from the final hour bump day qualifications. You just saw the final run that included Fabio Viana. It was a very exciting race to the finish on bump day and brought us a lot of drama. We talked to one of those key players in the qualifications drama. That was Chris Stofer, and man, did he have a lot of drama on his hands throughout not just qualifications week, but it sounded like the last month leading into that entire week of qualifying. The wheel that was supposed to show up on Monday ended up showing up on Sunday, and perhaps that changed the face and the dynamic of this field. Had Chris Stofer not made his last run and made the field, Randy Cheneth would be in the show, and Young O maybe wouldn't have even tried to requalify. So it really would have had a big change in the dynamic of bump day qualifications had that wheel just simply not shown up. So very fascinating interview with Chris Stofer. And now we just look ahead to race week. We've got practice again on Thursday from 1 to 9 p.m. Eastern Time. Again, same schedule as we've had for most practice days. We'll have coverage on Open Wheels TV from 1 to 7 p.m. Eastern, and then at 8 p.m. Eastern Time on Open Wheels TV. We'll have yet again another episode of Today at the 500, so make sure to join us then. On Friday, as we mentioned previously, RaceSpot TV will have coverage of Veterans 100 qualifications from 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern Time. So that'll definitely be fun, and we'll see how the V100 field shakes out this year. And then on Saturday, we've got a bunch of action on tap. We'll have the live public drivers meeting at 11 a.m. Eastern Time here on Open Wheels TV. Then following that at 12:30 p.m. Eastern Time, we'll have final practice for the Open Wheels 500 right here on Open Wheels TV, and then RaceSpot TV will pick up the baton at 2 p.m. and show live coverage of the Veterans 100, followed by the pit stop competition. So that'll run till about 4:30 p.m. Eastern Time, and that sets the stage for Sunday and the second annual Open Wheels 500-mile race presented by Mitchell Transmissions. The live pre-race show will begin here on Open Wheels TV at 9 a.m. Eastern Time. We'll run for 2 hours, include all of the pre-race ceremonies. That includes Back Home Again in Indiana to be performed by Phil Kaiser from Indianapolis once again this year. We'll also have taps, the national anthem, God Bless America, all of the pre-race ceremonies that we associate with the 500-mile race. That'll be live on the Today at the 500 pre-race show, again beginning at 9 a.m. Eastern Time on Open Wheels TV. And then RaceSpot TV will take the broadcast at 11:30 a.m. and get you ready for the 11:45 green flag, again, all times Eastern. And RaceSpot TV will bring you the live worldwide coverage of the Open Wheels 500. Well, taking a look at the starting lineup on the screen, we'll give you a rundown of the rows as they appear. There's Michele Costantini, Wilson Neto, and Christopher Demerit. They'll start in row 1. In row 2, it'll be Christian Schallner, Brendan Lichtenberg, and Hugo Olsen. Row 3 will have Matt Pavelski, Adam Blocker, and Joshua Chin, all drivers with former iRacing Indy 500 victories under their belts. Jason Brophy, Liam Quinn, and Jesper Orman will round out row 4. Row 5 will have Chad Simpson, Adam Crane, and Andrew Wood. Row 6 will have Marco Brazil, Matt Hollibaugh, and A.J. Burton. Following them will be row 7 with Andreas Eek, Andrew Kinsella, and Chris Cahoe. Row 8 will have Henry Bennett, Niall McBride, and Tim Doyle, a former iRacing Indy 500 winner. In row 9, Simon Bryant, Dakota DiCienzo, and first-timer Oliver Silva on the outside. And then in row 10, a very talented group with Austin Espity on the inside, Chris Stofer in the middle, who we just talked to, and our reigning pole sitter from 2019. He's now been bumped from that spot by Michele Costantini, but it's the one and only Young O starting on the outside of row 10. Then in the final row, row 11, it'll be Logan Simmons, Dylan Freckleton, and Daniel Johnson rounding out the field of 33. As we look ahead to the race, I'm certainly excited to see how this racetrack plays with these cars in extremely hot conditions. It's really a test of the best drivers here on iRacing in the IndyCar. The track temperature is expected to exceed 130 degrees Fahrenheit. Really excited to see how they handle that. Last year it was certainly a storyline. At the green flag, the temperature on track was about 110 degrees Fahrenheit, very manageable. But once we moved into the noon and 1 p.m. hours, we saw that track temp soar well over 125 degrees Fahrenheit, and we think it'll be even higher this year at the 2020 Open Wheels 500. So certainly a challenge for these drivers. They are the best in the world, and we expect them to really do a great job and put on a great show just like last year, hopefully with 2 or less cautions again. Really expecting a lot out of this crew, and with 12 former iRacing Indy 500 winners in the field and 22 of our starters from last year back in this year's starting 33, I think we have a good right to expect another great race. Logan Detweiler asks, will these videos be uploaded over the weekend like the pre-race show and such? Yes, the videos will all be saved here on Open Wheels TV, and you'll be able to go back and watch those at any time. That's one of the reasons why we moved over to YouTube for this year, and I think it's worked out pretty well for us. We'd like to hear everybody's feedback, but we think it's gone well. So thanks again to everybody who's really tuned in all through last week, and then throughout the 12 hours of qualifications that we had on each day over the weekend. Some great viewership numbers for us there on our Open Wheels TV broadcast. And now we get ready for the race week, the big show coming up on Sunday. Really can't wait to see who all moves to the front, the best performers. It's really an open book. We're not sure how it's going to play out, but we know it'll be exciting, and you'll be able to catch it all live on RaceSpot TV. As we close out today's show here, big thanks to Arjuna Kankipati from RaceSpot TV and Chris Stofer from Powerslide Motorsports for joining us on tonight's program. Very exciting and informational. Really looking forward to joining Arjuna on the podcast tomorrow, Talking Tenths. That'll be tomorrow morning, the RaceSpot TV podcast that talks not just about the Open Wheels 500, but all kinds of sim racing forums. So make sure you follow them on all their social media platforms and can absorb tomorrow's podcast, and we'll share it on Open Wheels social media networks as well. Also, big thanks to Michael Lett at the Majors Series and Majors Garage for sponsoring all broadcasts of the 2020 Open Wheels 500. And last but not least, thanks to Faye Constantine and everybody at ABC Circle Music who allowed the use of this ABC IndyCar theme over the last 10 days or so. It's been a great addition to our broadcasts here in 2020, and we look forward to using that in the future. Well, for everybody at Open Wheels Motorsports Sanctioning, this is Tanner Watkins signing off from Tuesday of race week at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. We build to the Open Wheels 500 this Sunday, live on RaceSpot TV at 11:30 a.m. Eastern Time. We'll speak to you guys again soon. See you on Thursday.